are two code labs. There's one that allows you to see how PHP deserialization works and to try and attack insecure deserialization on PHP. And then there's one that attacks a JavaScript deserialization package. And then if this is the vulnerability that really you love, then there's a whole sequence on Web Security Academy that's actually quite excellent that I would recommend. Okay, so the first code lab is on PHP. And the goal of this particular level is to somehow exfiltrate the password that is on in this path in the server. So this is a drawing application, and you can copy this link and paste it directly into the browser window. You can't just click on this directly because Chrome, at least in Chrome, these kinds of links no longer work in Chrome. So that's what we're going to start with. And I'm going to take a look at the application itself to begin with. So where do I have this here? I brought up this application somewhere in my mountain of, I have so many tabs. All right, there it is. So I have this brought up, and so it is a drawing app. So I can draw a line from the origin to 100, 100, and then I can draw this thing. And this will go to the server. The server will create an image object, will render the line that I asked the server to draw, will create an image, an embedded image. So if you look at this image address, what you can see is that you can't see that very well. Does this actually work? No, this does not actually work. Sorry. Notepad. So you can actually see that on the server, it dynamically generates, and this actually is your PHP session ID, I think. It draws the thing, dynamically generates this image, and then sends you back. But the problem is that there's a bunch of people drawing, well, for this week, there'll be a bunch of people drawing lines because you'll be doing this code lab. But if this were a super popular drawing application, you might find hundreds of users drawing lines, and the server's like, man, that's too many users to track. I need to find a better way. Like I could actually store all of the drawings, but then if I store all of the drawings, I'm subject to basically a denial of service attack. I don't want to store complex drawings. And so for you to actually want to implement this server, you might want to store the drawing on the client. And that's basically what this application does. So I'm going to draw another line. So I'll make this 450, 450, and I'm going to say draw that line. Oh, shoot. You know what? So yeah, there's two lines there, but 0, 0. I'll draw 3 lines. Okay. It's kind of not what okay, so then there's another line. Okay, the way this thing gets implemented, as it turns out, and you can actually track the interactions back and forth. The way this thing gets implemented is through cookies. So if you look through here, you go into the application, and then you click on the site. You see your PHP session ID, and so you can see that that has shown up in the drawing URL that was in the notepad. And then you see a drawing object, and you look at this drawing object, and you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff there. And so if you look at this string, you should look at this string. And if you've taken the malware reverse engineering class, this string should scream base64, right? It's letters, numbers, both lowercase, uppercase, and numbers. So this thing should tell you base64. And so you're like, oh, okay, let me reverse engineer this thing. So I'm going to take this thing and copy it. And if there's multiple ways you can base64 decode this thing, you could do it from a website if you'd like to. I like doing this interactively in the command line because what I'm often doing is just using it directly in the command line. So here I am in the command line. I can do a base 64-D. Wait. And then I can do a base 64-D. And then you can see here is one of the points that I put in there. Well, actually, this whole thing is there. This is the second one I put in. So 450, 450. And then this is the third point I put in, 400 and 200. So you can see that this looks like when we went through the PHP serialization thing, this actually is the format. So A3 means this is an array of 3 objects. Integer 0, this is means that it's the first object in the array. And then it's consisting of an array of 4 more objects. And the first, so these are key value pairs in this object. The first key is a string of 2 characters, and the string is x1, so that's the key. And the value, so it's stored as a string, is 0. And again, S2 is Y1 is the key, the value is 0, and then S3 and you have X2 and Y2, and those are 100 and 100. So hopefully you can look at that. I mean, I don't know why you would want to learn PHP serialization syntax, but like this is clearly something you can reverse engineer yourself. And this is basically the format of your drawing. I could actually I could edit this directly, send it back to that server, and it would render something nice for me. Actually, I'm not an artist, so it wouldn't render something nice, but it would render something. So that is the drawing object that I wanted to show you how this thing worked. You could actually base 64 decode on this site as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to go through is the source code for how this thing actually works. Someone put into the chat CyberChef. I don't think I've used that, but that sounds cool. That's a cool name. So yeah, maybe I should try it. CyberChef. So yeah, this is the implementation of this particular application, and this is a PHP script, and the PHP script is going to be invoked whenever it is interacting with the client. And initially, if the session doesn't exist, you have to create the session ID, because the session ID is going to be key in terms of generating the rendered image that gets displayed when you draw points in this particular drawing. Okay, and then what this thing does is it takes your cookie. If the client is sending you a cookie and there is a key that says drawing. So again, if you saw that in the developer tools, I had a cookie named drawing. And in the drawing, so the key exists and it has this value. So I'm actually going to execute this particular piece of code. And then it's looking to make sure that all 4 coordinates exist in the drawing that you're trying to submit. So in the form submission, you are specifying another line. And so this is where if you want to draw something else on this object, then you're going to have to make sure you specify all 4 points. So this is going to the get attributes in the so the submission is done using gets. Question: does PHP not short circuit the logical OR? Yeah. So if it doesn't exist, then you basically have to create a new drawing. But because it does exist, oh wait, you're right. Huh. I have to think about that. Wait, hang on a second. Oh, so if the drawing is there, it'll be true. Otherwise, it'll do this. So yeah, there must be other logic to update this. So yeah, that would be my bad. So the image file, so I am going to do a walkthrough where this is fresh. But assuming that all four, so it wants to make sure that all, oh gosh, this is, yeah, well, if you're just rendering this thing, then maybe the reload doesn't require all of this stuff to happen. But yeah, so then, I forgot about the actual sequence of interacting with this thing, but okay. So this says if you got to make sure all four coordinates exist, and then what it does is it executes the logic of the web application. It's going to create a string to represent where the image is going to be stored on the server for you to then render. And then these are the three things: draw image, show image, and store data that we're going to walk through. The first thing is draw image. It takes the file name as a parameter. So you see the image file coming in. It creates an image object using a package that gets imported. We didn't really see this before. But then it does this thing called draw from user data, which is actually included in the script. And then after that, it creates the PNG and then destroys this is done in memory. And then as soon as you have exported this out, this PNG image out to the file system, then you destroy the image in memory. So the draw from user data basically looks to see if an existing drawing is there. And then what it does is it does an unserialize of the drawing itself. So you can see here, this is obviously a telltale sign that's base64 encoded because the source code says base64 decode. So they do give you this in the level. And if you want to get at it in the level, let me see here. There's a view source code link on the level site. Okay, and then so what it does is that it gets you this is the drawing that is already existent in this cookie, and so for each basically set of coordinates in this drawing, it basically cycles through and renders the object. So that's what and this isn't the complete code for this, but that's basically what this sequence is doing. It's basically taking all those coordinates and making the drawing. And then it basically exports that drawing into the file system as a PNG. Whoops. And then it finishes drawing that image. So that's basically what this thing does. The show image call, so now that the thing is in the file system, you need to create an HTML tag and return it into the thing the HTML that you pass back to the client that renders that image at the bottom. So this this checks to see that the file actually was successfully created in the previous draw image function. And then it echoes out the tag that points to the file in the file system so that the thing can be rendered on the client. The last thing is to update the cookie. We have to store this cookie back onto the client. So we have to create the drawing object and then serialize it and then put it back into the cookie, base64 encode it, put it back into the cookie and send it back. And so that's what this last function is going to do. And this is the code for that. I create a new object array, and for the new line that I have just gotten, so someone is trying to draw a new line, I create the array that includes that new line, and then if the current drawing exists, I am going to deserialize it. That's what this is, and create the array of lines in this drawing object. Otherwise, if it doesn't exist, I have to create a new blank array. And then what I'm going to do is take that array and merge it with this new object. And this is the way you do the merging. This kind of is confusing because this looks like an assignment. And you're like, hey, this is just assigning this to this new object. But no, in PHP, this actually appends the new object into the drawing. Well, oh, so this, yeah, this is an array that's being included into an array of arrays. That's why this syntax works. I looked at this syntax and I'm like, that can't possibly work, but that's basically what that's what this thing is doing. And I don't, yeah, that the PHP in this case doesn't really matter that much. And then you set the cookie to the base 64 encoding of the serialized version of the drawing. Okay, so that's pretty long-winded, but I think it's important for you to understand what the application is doing. Okay. Okay, the drawing also contains this logger object to record all of the changes and then to get that log information back to the server. And it turns out this is where the vulnerability lies. The class itself implements a standard constructor and destructor for this PHP class. It implements the underscore destruct. I think one of these two is incorrect. But basically, it's got a constructor that says, oh, you know what? This is the initialization message, and this is the exit message for a particular session. This is where the log file for these things should be stored. And then as part of this constructor, I'm going to open that file. I'm going to write the messages, the initialization message into the file, and then close the file. And then within the application, if I have a message that needs to be logged, I'm going to open the log file. And if you note, the log file is opened in append-only mode. So you're appending the log entries into this. So you'll see the previous invocations of your interactions with this log file as you do this level. And I just wanted to mention that because sometimes if you read the log file and you're like, this is something that I did before and not what I'm trying to do now, it's because this is all append. All of these things are append only. And then in the destructor, you basically will open the file and then write out the exit message and then close it. Okay, so that's basically the logging class. But there is a way for the malicious client to send a malicious logger object that basically messes with the values that have been initialized in the constructor. Because I can send an arbitrary logger object and I can set the actual values of the variables in the object to be whatever I would like. So the deserialization attack in this particular case sets the message object sets the exit message for the object to a PHP script. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to exfiltrate this PHP script into the file system where the logs go. And then I'm going to subsequently access that PHP script to exfiltrate the rest. And so this is the case. This is a case where if I take that exit message and I basically overwrite the exit message to be this string, and then I get that string output into my image file, or into not an image file, into a file in the directory that contains the images. So for example, image myphp.php, then I can subsequently access this file and get the information on PHP. And that will print this to a log file that I can also specify. So if you look, the log file here allows you to, you can override the value in your malicious object. You can override the exit message. And then right when this happens in the destructor, I can open this thing. It will open the malicious version of this. And then it can write out the exit message, which will also be that PHP script, the malicious PHP string. And then when this happens, as soon as I draw that, or as soon as I provide that as a logger object, it's going to execute on the server. And then upon destroying the logger object, the file is going to be written out. And then all I have to do is subsequently access that PHP file and then I win. I can basically do a, this script can actually access Etsy natas password natas27, which is the goal of the level. Okay. And then the adversary accesses the PHP script created by the logger to get the desired password. So that is a rundown of the application. Wow, I guess, I'm actually doing the entire walkthrough. I didn't intend to do the entire walkthrough. I intended to just talk about the app. Uh, I think at this point I'm gonna finish most of it. So sorry. Feel free to fill out the attendance and leave at any time. But I'll basically go through the entire first lab and then I'll take a break. So what this level is going to have you do is to create a malicious logger object and then to attach it into the cookie. And then when you send your malicious drawing object embedded in that cookie to the site, the deserialization will then create these malicious files. And so we saw before, you're basically, well, I mentioned this one before, where in my exit message, I can say, I want to write out this PHP info, this string, this PHP script as my message. And then I want to write it into a relative path in the file system where the images are stored. So this is the directory the images get rendered into. So I'm going to say phpinfo.php. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send. So basically, this needs to get serialized and base64 encoded and then attached to a cookie that I then send to the server. And this, so I have to declare this in PHP. So this is basically copying and pasting the class definition from the Vue source code. And then you'll see upon destruction, I'll open this malicious log file here, and then I will exfiltrate the exit message into that file path. And so what you're going to need to do is find out what the serialization, the representation of the serialized version of this is. And you can do this all in PHP. Now, you could actually do this manually in the PHP syntax that I just showed you, but that's too much of a pain. So we're going to use PHP, the PHP interpreter, to draw this stuff, or to exfiltrate this, or to generate this for us. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say serialize a new logger object. I really don't care what this is. It doesn't get used in this constructor. And then I want you to base64 encode the serialized version so I know what to set the cookie to on the other side. And say I want to do that to begin with, but maybe I want to do another one where I echo the name of the PHP script that is executing on the server. So PHP has the special __ file __, and this was supplied by a student who recommended that I change it to be one of these instead of the actual solution itself. And I was like, okay, that actually makes sense. So I'm going to show you this example, and then note that this is being done in append only mode. So you have to make sure that you do separate files for this. Otherwise, you'll end up you'll be executing a whole bunch of stuff rather than just the one command that you wanted to do. So it's often the case that when you're interacting with this site, and hopefully you're using your Odin ID when you interact with this site, because all of you are interacting with the same instance. And so I don't want you to be using these names because then you'll be overwriting each other's stuff. And so these are the two examples, and I have some replets here. And so one of the really nice things about Replit is that you can run whatever you like on it, including PHP. And did I have the foresight to actually open up all of these REPL? I did. No, I didn't. Sorry. Okay, so let me show you this, and let me show you this, because that's the code I just showed you, and then I'll show you this. This is the one that actually will perform the exploit, and then get you a win. So yeah, when you specify a REPL, you could say this is a PHP CLI. I'll open this up for you. So this is what we saw earlier. Echo in class. I don't know what I put up there already. I put up a lot of stuff there actually. So so this is the object I want to send, so I can hit run on this thing. And then let me hit run again. And it gives you a bunch of errors because obviously this stuff, let me see, when you do all of these things, this stuff is not going to exist in your container that's running your PHP, which is what this thing is. Okay, so this is the base 64 encoded cookie like that I want to send. So I'm going to copy this thing. And then what I'll do is I'll show you the script that you can use to send your malicious drawing. And so you can see already, this is the Natas URL. I just created a new payload. And I'm going to use that payload as my cookie. And I have to do a request.get that includes the credentials of the natas26 site because it's basic auth protected. And then I just include the cookies for this drawing. And then what I want to do is after this thing executes, I want to actually get the thing back. And so this is not the right URL. Instead, I want to do echo in class.php. Is that what I did? I think that's what I did. Might be having a senior moment. Yep. All right. Nope. This brain still works. And then I'm going to run it. So let me run this thing. And you can see the file name of the PHP script is echo in class.php. And this is the directory structure on the Natas end of the thing. So there's that. Likewise, you could do PHP info. Say I want to figure out what the server information is. So I'll do a PHP info in class, and then I will run this thing. I will get the drawing. I'll come over here. I will paste this thing. And then I will do this, PHP info. And then I'm going to run this thing. And you can see all of I could copy and paste this thing, but you can see there's a lot of people who helped develop this, all of these different modules. Wow. All right. So this allows you to exfiltrate. This usually, so all the environment variables, all of the different things that this thing is configured with. Hey, look, you see this? You actually get the auth key, the auth password. Actually, I hadn't seen that before. Yeah, you get, in fact, actually, so if you supplied environment variables, so if this is running in the cloud and your API keys or your Google application credentials are here, like and you'll see, like actually, if you took the cloud class, you see that you're passing a whole bunch of stuff in environment variables, and a lot of them are your secret keys. So PHP info is pretty devastating to be able to exfiltrate if you are doing things like storing stuff in environment variables. Yeah, so that's not a good look for you. So yeah, oh, it's running Apache too.